Welcome back to yet another edition of the Ottawa Senators Media Panel with Post Media. I'm Ken Warren with Don Brennan. Special guest this week, Terry Marcotte of CTV Ottawa. He knows a thing about being on camera, so shouldn't be no alarms there. Guys, once again, there's always so much going on. We got trade talk or potential trade talk to get to, and the Senators coming off kind of a wild and wacky few games in Winnipeg and Chicago. Maybe we'll start with there. They lost 8-7 Monday night to Chicago. It looked to me like guys are loose, but maybe the attention to defensive detail isn't there so much. Maybe it's about just picking up points and guys trying to pad their stats and their attention. Maybe it has to do with the trade deadline. Let's talk about that. What's going on through their heads here?
I feel a little bit bad for Guy Boucher. You know, he's doing his job. He's trying to pass along this message like he has to the players for the last 2 years. But obviously, like that game in Chicago, there was, you could say, yeah, they didn't play very well defense. Well, that's obvious because there's 8 goals against. But you could see the effort level in their own zone was terrible. It was embarrassing. So, I mean, you've got to, I think, have some pride. I know you're out there trying to pad your stats at this time of year because those are the only numbers that really matter. The standings don't. But you have to have some pride in playing the game the right way, and Guy Boucher must be going crazy.
I blame coaching on that one. I thought they should have gone for the 2-point convert, and they didn't.
Yeah.
That would have no. It was. People talk about goals, about how exciting goals are. That was a terrible game to watch. I like tight checking. I like when every goal matters. I mean, it's just not fun to watch a game like that.
Well, I mean, you see Patrick Kane dancing, and I like watching Chicago because they're open. But every once in a while, maybe somebody has to go near him and maybe bump him once or twice. Like that's how you contain. You know, it's hard to contain a guy, but occasionally you have to slow them down. So, a weird game, and I mean, coming off a win in Winnipeg, which I guess there's some, you can pat yourself on the back for a win against a really good team, and they did twice in a week beat Winnipeg. But really, there's been so few of those wins, especially on the road, that it is about the big picture. And the big picture, guys, let's face it, is the trades and trade speculation. We're doing this on Tuesday morning here. Who knows what's going to happen later in this week? Guys, to me, and we just talked about this before we got on air, why are you playing some of these guys if they're going to be traded? Don?
That's mind-boggling for sure. I heard somebody on TV say something about the integrity of the game and for the fan base, and that's crap. I mean, the integrity of the game, in the fan base too, you're talking about the fan base. If you want to worry about anybody's fan base, you worry about your own, and you maybe on home games might want to address them. But I would not take the chance. If Matt Duchene injures his ankle, his knee, Mark Stone gets hurt in any way, you can't trade these guys.
You've got nothing.
You won't have anything to do with these guys except wave goodbye on July 1st
And try to sell hope after losing. I agree. I mean, I can't understand why you're playing these guys. The games mean nothing. They're assets right now, and they're probably going to get traded, and you're going to get nothing if they get hurt. So you sit them.
It reminds me a little bit going way back. I remember a playoff series that Ottawa was preparing for a playoff series against Toronto. They knew they were going to play Toronto in playoffs. The last game of the year really meant nothing in terms of the matchups or standings. Wade Redden took a shot off the foot, and Wade Redden was injured. And everybody, of course, you can second guess in that case. Say, well, why was he playing? One of your best players in that situation. And so that's the danger here. Now maybe they don't play another game here, and they don't play again until Thursday in New Jersey, and maybe the mindset changes are that much closer to a deal. So we gotta wait here and see what happens. The end game here is, how are you gonna? We don't know what they're going to end up. Is Mark Stone possibly, there's a chance he might stay, but how are you going to satisfy fans? You're a community guy here, Terry. You understand what's going through fans' minds here as they try to figure out what the Senators are going to do.
Well, you get a lot. I mean, you look at how empty Canadian Tire Center is this year. I mean, and it's getting emptier and emptier. You look at the thread of some of the players that fans have gravitated to: Alfredson, Carlson, Neal, Chris Phillips, Kyle Turris. All of them set up roots in Ottawa. They live in Ottawa. We've got an owner right now who's never lived here, who doesn't spend a whole lot of time here. There is a disconnect between the owner and the community, and it's not going to be bridged until Eugene Melnyk comes here and spends a little more time, understands the people, understands that Ottawa and Toronto are different places, and addresses the elephant in the room, addresses the negativity, comes out, talks to the media, and answers questions. The franchise right now is I mean, you can do whatever you want to do to put a product on the ice, but it is going to be very difficult to get hockey back to where it was until that there's a bridge in that gap, and I can't see it happening with Eugene Melnyk being away and basically saying nothing, not dealing with anything about Ottawa.
Don, I know you're probably going to disagree with that. No,
Yeah.
what is your? I mean, I think a lot of people, like Terry said, a lot of people feel that way. They just can't understand, where. We can go back to the statements that come out of Toronto rather than Ottawa. But do you agree with Terry for the most part? It's disconnect.
A couple of North Bay guys, we always agree. But no, I mean, 100%. Look, you've got the thing that I think should be most worrisome to fans, and you have Pierre Dorion telling everybody on December 1st that money, the financial considerations are not part of it here. Don't worry, we've got full backing of Eugene Melnyk. So that asks another question then. What is taking these guys so long to decide? Well, they don't want to play in this situation. Now, you can lose a Matt Duchene, and you should be able to get something really good for him. And, you can survive that, I believe. But a Mark Stone's one of the best right wingers in the NHL. And he is an Ottawa center from the
That's part
ground
of it.
roots,
I think
right?
that, yeah.
A 6th-round pick, a guy that developed through the system, and a guy, I'm sure, that a lot of the fans can really identify with and really cheer for. I think there's a lot of 61 jerseys out there. So if you lose Mark Stone, who means this so much to your team and so much to the community, and he's saying, well, it's not the money, because Pierre Dorion says there's money is not an issue, then there's something else. It's a bigger issue. It's like what you said. I mean,
Okay,
it's
so
the upstairs.
So let's go, beyond the on ice. We've talked about this for weeks. Is the off ice and this mediation about LeBreton Flats and what's going to happen if Eugene Melnyk is out there? If there's some kind of arrangement, whether it's bringing in a partner or whether it's somehow getting past the lawsuits, the left and right. If he's out there, shovel in hand, digging the first, if they can get a deal, does that change the mood? Do people then say, well, if there's a marina coming? Then maybe they can buy in a little more.
I used to think that, but the more this goes on, and I mean, we've since had all the lawsuits and, potentially losing some star players. I just think that everything that is flowing from there are a lot of good people in the Senators organization, some really good people, and they're doing hard work. They're trying to build something up, but a lot of it is stemming just from the top, and I don't think there's any trust between Eugene Melnyk and the fan base, and I think it goes both ways. And until you do something to bridge that, I think this franchise is in trouble. And LeBreton would be nice, but I can see them building LeBreton, and I can see the rink if Eugene Melnyk is still the owner and still the same situation, no olive branch to the community. I think it could be, people will go and watch and say, okay, yeah, it's a nice place. And we could be back to where we are right now.
The thinking is you'd have more resources, right? If you're building and you're building around it, you got more income coming in, then maybe rather than ever you're talking about players going out, maybe you could be talking about signing players. But I mean, again, these are if, and we're waiting for the resolution in that. For now, where do we go here at the end of the season here? One way or another, it's not going to be the same team here, Don.
Well, there has to be, some movement. There has to be, and again, I expect that all three of these players are going to be traded. Now, just watch, as you said at the start, by this afternoon they could be announcing that Stone has signed an extension or whatever. But I really believe that, this rebuild could be exciting. It could be interesting if they get the right returns on the players that they have available. But it's going to be the same thing to me. It's like Terry said. I mean, when Thomas Chabot, who is just a wonderful player to watch, so smooth and so magnificent with the puck, when he becomes ready for a new contract, if you couldn't sign Mark Stone, if you couldn't convince Mark Stone to stay, well, how can you convince Thomas Chabot or Brady Tkachuk or Colin White? To me, those guys, the future is tainted by the present, and that's the ownership. They can't get past that. No matter how many positives they throw at you, they can't get past what is coming from the top.
I look at what's going on with the Toronto Blue Jays, and they inherited, they bring in a new group to run the team. They inherit an old team, and this year they're blowing it up. And you get a sense that there's a plan, and it may be tough for a few years, but you get a sense that there's a plan. I still don't quite understand where the hope is. Especially you've got you're giving away your top draft pick next year. That's the tough part. I don't look at this and say, okay, I get it. I see where they're going. I mean, yeah, some things are said here and there, but I haven't heard a clear vision about where this team is going to go to kind of get where they'd like to be.
Well, what we do have is some positives in the minors in Belleville. You got Logan Brown starting to look like a bit of a player. Drake Batherson back to where he was early part of the year. These are the little tiny things that people say, well, these guys are probably going to be here either the end of this year if they trade all these guys, or early next year. So, I guess that's what we're going to hear probably in the next few months or few weeks, I guess, after this. So thanks for tuning in. Next week, we will have a much clearer vision on where this team is going for the remainder of the year after the trade deadline. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Terry Murcott.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Don Brennan. I'm Ken Warren. Thank you.